The janitor didn't shout. He didn't fight back. He didn't even flinch. When the billionaire CEO's voice exploded across the marble lobby, everyone froze. Because humiliation like that is meant to break a man, especially a black man in a uniform people pretend not to see. A mop bucket tipped, water spread, and with one cruel sentence, dignity was dragged across the floor in front of strangers who chose silence. But the janitor's eyes stayed calm. Inside him, something old stirred. Memories of commands whispered in darkness, of lives depending on his steadiness, of storms far louder than this man's voice. He swallowed the insult, not because he was weak, but because he was trained to endure things that would crush others. What no one in that lobby knew, what the CEO would soon discover in the most public, devastating way, was that this nobody carried a past powerful enough to bring an empire to its knees. Stay with me, because what happens next will expose a truth so shocking, it will silence everyone in the room. The first time Ethan Caldwell's voice hit the marble lobby, it didn't sound like a man correcting a mistake. It sounded like a verdict. "Watch where you're going." The words cracked through Caldwell Tower's ground floor like a whip, loud enough to stop footsteps, loud enough to make people pretend they hadn't heard, loud enough to turn a small accident into a public execution. A mop bucket had tipped. A shallow wave of water slid across the gleaming marble, catching the chandelier light and flashing like a mirror. A few drops kissed the edge of a leather briefcase near the revolving doors. Nothing was ruined. Nothing was broken. Except suddenly a man's dignity. Marcus Reed was on one knee, moving fast, steady hands grabbing the mop like he'd done this 1,000 times. He wore a plain navy uniform that blended into the background the same way people expected him to. Black man, late 30s. Broad shoulders under a work shirt that didn't fit the strength he carried so quietly. He didn't curse. He didn't panic. He simply reached for the bucket and set it upright again. "I'm sorry, sir," Marcus said, voice even, controlled. "The floor's wet in this section. I'll have it dry in a minute." Ethan Caldwell stepped closer anyway, as if the apology was an invitation. He was tall, clean-cut, immaculate. A man built from boardrooms and headlines. Founder and CEO of Caldwell Defense Systems. The kind of name that made people straighten their posture without realizing they were doing it. His suit looked like it had never known sweat. His watch could have paid for someone's rent for a year. His eyes moved over Marcus the way people scan a warning sign. Quickly, dismissively, already annoyed it exists. "I don't need a minute," Ethan said. "I need you to do your job." The lobby had gone still. The receptionist's hands hovered above her keyboard, frozen. Two interns near the elevator held their coffee like it was suddenly fragile. A woman in a blazer glanced down at her phone and kept staring at the blank screen, desperate for the option to disappear. Marcus glanced toward the water, then back up. "Yes, sir." Ethan's jaw flexed. "You almost ruined a client's briefcase." Marcus's eyes flicked to the briefcase. A small splash on the corner. Nothing more. He didn't argue. He didn't point out the obvious. He just nodded once. "I'll take care of it," Marcus said. "I'll replace anything that's damaged." Ethan's mouth curled slightly, the kind of smile that wasn't a smile. "With what money?" It wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. The cruelty was in the ease of it, like he'd said it 100 times and had never once wondered how it sounded. Marcus kept his face calm. That calm was the only thing in the room that didn't bend. "I'll handle it," he repeated. Ethan's gaze dropped to Marcus's badge, hanging from a frayed lanyard. "Marcus Reed, maintenance." "So you know who I am," Ethan said, because the entire building was his mirror, and he liked hearing his own name reflected back. Marcus stood slowly, not rushed, not defiant, just upright. "Yes, Mr. Caldwell." The fact that Marcus said it correctly without fear seemed to irritate Ethan more. "Everyone knows who I am," Ethan said. He stepped around the puddle as if the water itself was beneath him. "What I don't know is why, after 2 years, you still can't move in a straight line." Marcus's chest rose once. A breath in, a breath out. "I was cleaning where I was scheduled." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "So now you're blaming the schedule?" "No, sir," Marcus said. "I'm explaining." Ethan leaned in just enough to make it feel personal. Let me explain something to you. This building runs on discipline, precision, control. If you can't keep a lobby dry, you don't belong here. Marcus held his gaze, polite, silent. The silence wasn't submission. It was restraint. Ethan's voice sharpened anyway, because restraint in another man always feels like a threat to someone who needs to feel powerful. Men like me build places like this, Ethan said. Men like you. Clean them. The line landed hard. It wasn't just class. It wasn't just a job. It was that old, ugly idea that some people are meant to be seen and some are meant to be used. The lobby seemed to shrink around it, like the building itself was ashamed. A soft sound came from the elevator. Ava Caldwell stepped out, tablet in hand, hair pulled back, the crisp confidence of someone raised near power, but not fully poisoned by it. She stopped dead the moment she saw Marcus standing in a wet patch and her father towering over him like a judge. "Dad," she said, voice tight, "what is going on?" Ethan didn't turn. An employee who can't do his job. Ava's eyes moved to the bucket, the water, the mop, then to Marcus's face. Calm, controlled, not a hint of pleading. "It was an accident," Ava said. "That's what's going on." Ethan snapped. "Accidents happen to careless people." Ava's jaw tensed. "And cruelty happens to insecure ones." A few heads jerked toward her. Nobody expected Ethan Caldwell's own daughter to say that out loud. For the first time, Ethan turned to her, offended. "Don't lecture me in my own building." Ava took a step closer, voice lower now, almost begging. "You're doing this in front of everyone." Ethan's eyes flashed. "Good. Maybe everyone needs a reminder. There's a ladder in life, Ava, and not everyone gets to climb it." Marcus's gaze lifted slightly, not to Ethan's face at first, but beyond him, toward the glass doors where New York's morning rushed by. People in suits, people in uniforms, people carrying food carts, people who moved through the city like it belonged to them, and people who moved like they were hoping not to be noticed. Then Marcus looked back at Ethan, and for a second the room didn't see a janitor. It saw a man who had swallowed something heavy for a long time and refused to let it turn him ugly. Marcus spoke quietly. "You're right about ladders," he said. Ethan's mouth tightened, ready to enjoy the surrender. Marcus continued. "They do exist." Ava's breath caught. Something in Marcus's tone shifted, like the calm before thunder. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't step closer. He didn't posture. He simply said, "They go both ways, and sometimes the man at the top falls faster than he thinks." The words hung in the air, clean and sharp. Not a threat, not violence, a truth. A few people gasped anyway, because they weren't used to hearing truth in that lobby, not from someone holding a mop. Ethan's face flushed red. "Did you just threaten me?" Marcus shook his head once. "No, sir. I reminded you." Ethan snapped his fingers at his assistant like summoning a servant. "Get security." Ava stepped in front of Marcus instinctively, as if she could block the damage with her body. "You can't fire him for speaking." Ethan's voice dropped, poisonous and controlled. "I can do whatever I want." Marcus didn't fight her. He didn't use her as a shield. He just moved slightly to the side, gentle, respectful. "It's okay," Marcus said to Ava, low enough that only she heard. "Don't burn yourself trying to hold back someone else's fire." Ava's eyes glistened, not with weakness, with fury. "It's not okay." Marcus picked up his mop and bucket without any drama, as if leaving was just another part of the job. The lobby buzzed with whispers already, hungry and nervous. As Marcus turned toward the maintenance corridor, his sleeve slid up half an inch. Just half an inch. Enough. Ava's eyes locked onto the mark on his forearm, a tattoo old and faded, but unmistakably deliberate, a winged sword wrapped in a ring of numbers. Not a street tattoo, not art, not vanity, a symbol. Ava's stomach dropped. She didn't know why she recognized it, only that something inside her memory flinched as if it had been waiting for this moment. Marcus tugged his sleeve down as if he'd done it 1,000 times, as if he'd learned long ago that the world treats certain truths like weapons. He walked away with steady footsteps that didn't match the role Ethan had assigned him in his mind. No slumped shoulders, no hurried shame, No cracked dignity, just quiet control. Ethan didn't notice the tattoo. He didn't notice the way the room's respect had shifted without permission. He only noticed that, for the first time in his tower, his voice didn't sound like power anymore. It sounded like noise. Ava stood there staring at the door Marcus disappeared through, her heart pounding, her throat tight. She looked at her father, and in that moment she didn't see a leader. She saw a man who had built an empire and somehow still didn't understand the simplest thing: that the people you step on don't always stay beneath you. Sometimes they were trained to stand in storms, and sometimes they carry names the world once whispered with respect in places where money means nothing. The building didn't calm down after Marcus Reed walked out. It pretended to. Caldwell Tower returned to its rhythm the way people do after witnessing something ugly, by lowering their voices, by avoiding eye contact, by telling themselves it wasn't their problem. Shoes clicked across marble again. Elevators chimed. Coffee machines hissed. On the surface, nothing had changed. Underneath, everything had. Whispers followed Marcus's exit like a shadow. They clung to corners and slid through hallways, reshaping the story with every retelling. He talked back to the CEO. No, he didn't raise his voice once. I swear he looked like he wasn't scared at all. That man's been yelled at by worse than Ethan Caldwell. Ava Caldwell shut her office door and leaned against it, breath uneven. Her tablet lay dark on her desk, forgotten. All she could see was that split second, fabric lifting, ink catching the light, the winged sword branded into Marcus's skin like a quiet refusal to be erased. She sat down slowly and typed 3 words into the search bar. Winged sword insignia. Images flooded the screen. Military patches, historical symbols, unit emblems. None of them felt right. Her fingers hovered, then added one more word. Special Forces. The screen refreshed, and Ava felt the blood drain from her face. There it was. Winged Vanguard Special Operations Division. Her heart began to pound so hard she could hear it in her ears. The description beneath the emblem read like myth more than fact. Classified missions, deep cover operations. Units so secretive their names were buried even within the military. Men trained to lead in chaos, to stay calm while the world burned around them. Ava leaned back in her chair, stunned. Why would someone like that be mopping floors in her father's building? Downstairs in the security control room, Victor Hale replayed the footage for the 4th time. He didn't look at Ethan Caldwell's face anymore. He didn't need to. He watched Marcus. The posture, the stillness, the way he never raised his hands, never leaned back, never shrank. That wasn't stubbornness. That was discipline. That was training drilled into bone. Victor froze the frame again as Marcus turned. There, the tattoo, clear as day. Victor's jaw tightened. He reached for the phone on his desk, thumb hovering over a number he hadn't dialed in years. Hughes, he said when the line connected. It's Victor Hale. A pause, then a low chuckle. Hale, I'll be damned. What kind of trouble you in now? Victor didn't smile. You ever serve with a man named Marcus Reed? The silence on the other end stretched, heavy. Captain Marcus Reed? Hughes finally asked. Victor closed his eyes. Yeah. A sharp exhale came through the speaker. That man saved my unit in Kandahar, led Nightfall Ops. Calmest commander I ever saw under fire. He vanished. No retirement ceremony. No interviews. Just gone. Victor swallowed. He's a janitor in my building. What? Hughes barked. I saw the Vanguard mark, Victor said. It's him. Hughes's tone changed instantly. Then listen to me very carefully. You treat that man with respect, not because of what he was, because of what he still is. The call ended. Victor stared at the paused image of Marcus Reed on the screen, mop in hand, eyes steady while a billionaire screamed inches from his face. So that's who you are, Victor murmured. At the same time, Ava's phone buzzed. A message from Victor. Miss Caldwell, your father wants janitorial coverage in the boardroom for the noon investor meeting. Send Reed. Ava stared at the screen, pulse spiking. The boardroom. Investors. Press. European defense delegates. The most powerful room in the building. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Is that really necessary? The reply came almost instantly. Yes, trust me. Ava's stomach twisted. Victor Hale never interfered with scheduling, ever. If he was pushing this, it meant something was about to explode. She stood, grabbed her blazer, and headed for the elevator. Up on the executive floor, Ethan Caldwell was already resetting the narrative in his mind. By the time he reached his office, Marcus Reed was no longer a man. He was an inconvenience, a brief disruption to be erased by momentum and success. Ethan straightened his tie in the mirror, smoothing irritation into confidence. The defense contract on the table today would be photographed, reported, praised. His name would trend in business circles. That was what mattered. Make sure the boardroom is spotless, he told his assistant. No distractions. As noon approached, executives filled the room. Cameras were tested. The German delegation arrived, including a retired colonel whose posture carried decades of command. Ethan shook hands, smiling wide. Gentlemen, welcome. Let's make history. No one noticed when Marcus Reed entered the boardroom. He pushed the mop bucket quietly along the wall, eyes scanning the room out of habit more than curiosity. Glass walls, clear lines of sight, corners, reflections. He took it all in the way soldiers never stop doing, even years after the uniform comes off. He moved to the far corner near the windows and began mopping with a steady rhythm. Ethan launched into his presentation. Caldwell Defense Systems stands for precision, discipline, control, he said proudly. Values I live by. Ava took her seat near the side, heart hammering. Her eyes kept drifting to Marcus, to his hands, to the way he existed in the room without shrinking. Across the table, the German colonel leaned toward his translator and spoke softly. This prototype resembles Vanguard methodology, he said, the one led by Captain Reed. The translator nodded. Yes, the American commander. Ethan caught the word Vanguard and smiled smugly. Ah, yes, an impressive initiative from years ago. Whoever led that unit is probably long retired. Ava's breath caught in her throat. Marcus's sleeve slipped slightly as he shifted his grip. The tattoo flashed. The colonel's head snapped up. His eyes locked on Marcus like he'd seen a ghost. Before Ethan could continue, the boardroom doors opened. Victor Hale stepped inside, a thin folder under his arm. Sorry to interrupt, Victor said, but this cannot wait. Ethan frowned. Can it wait? I'm closing a deal. Victor's voice dropped, firm. No. Ethan sighed theatrically. Fine, make it quick. Victor walked forward and placed the folder on the table. Sir, he said, there's something you need to know about the man cleaning your floors? Ethan turned, irritated. What about him? Victor met his eyes. That's not just a janitor. That's Captain Marcus Reed, former commanding officer of the Winged Vanguard Special Operations Division. The room went silent. Not awkward silence. Shock. The German colonel stood so fast his chair scraped loudly across the floor. Captain Reed, he said, disbelief thick in his accent. You led Operation Nightfall. You saved 27 of my soldiers. All eyes snapped to Marcus. He stopped mopping. Slowly, he straightened. I did, he said simply. A long time ago. Ethan's mouth opened, then closed. That's impossible. Victor slid the documents toward him. 15 years of service, multiple commendations, classified missions. He disappeared from public records 5 years ago. The colonel stepped forward and extended his hand with deep respect. You are a legend. Marcus hesitated, then shook it. We all did our jobs. Ethan took a step back, the ground shifting beneath him. Why, he asked weakly, would a man like you be cleaning floors? Marcus looked at him, calm, unblinking. Because peace doesn't need applause, he said. Because my mother got sick. Because I wanted a quiet life. Ava felt tears sting her eyes. Ethan searched for words, any words that could save him. I didn't know, he whispered. Marcus tilted his head slightly. You didn't care to know. The truth landed harder than anger ever could. The boardroom didn't belong to Ethan anymore. It belonged to the man he had tried to make invisible, and the reckoning had only just begun. The room didn't erupt after the truth came out. It collapsed inward. Silence pressed against the glass walls of the boardroom, heavy and suffocating. as if every polished surface had suddenly learned how to feel shame. The investors avoided one another's eyes. The reporters lowered their cameras, unsure whether they were witnessing history or a man's unraveling. No one spoke because no one knew how to speak after seeing power stripped so cleanly of its costume. Ethan Caldwell stood at the head of the table, frozen. For the first time in his life, he had nothing to say. He looked at Marcus Reed, not as a janitor, not even as a soldier, but as a mirror, and he didn't like what he saw reflected back. Not the building, not the contracts, not the legacy he'd spent decades constructing. He saw his own arrogance, laid bare in front of men who understood honor better than balance sheets ever could. The German colonel broke the silence gently. "In my country," he said, voice calm but firm, "a man like Captain Reed is treated with respect, not because of rank, but because of character." Ethan swallowed. "I didn't know." Victor Hale didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "You didn't ask." That sentence cut deeper than any insult. Ava stood slowly, her chair scraping softly against the floor. She looked at her father, then at Marcus. Her voice trembled, but it didn't break. "You talk about leadership every day, about discipline, about values, and you couldn't recognize them standing right in front of you." Ethan opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came out. Not because he didn't have words, but because, for once, the words didn't belong to him. Marcus picked up his mop and leaned it gently against the wall, as if setting down something heavier than a tool. "I don't want this room," he said quietly, "and I don't want revenge." He looked directly at Ethan, eyes steady, not angry. "Yesterday, you showed me who you are. Today, you showed everyone else." That was worse. Marcus turned toward the door. No applause followed him. No dramatic music. Just the sound of his footsteps echoing down the hall, unhurried, unbroken. Outside, rain had begun to fall. Not the dramatic kind, no thunder, no lightning. Just a steady, honest rain that soaked the pavement and blurred the reflection of Caldwell Tower into something less sharp, less certain. Marcus walked toward the maintenance lot, rain darkening his uniform. He didn't rush. He'd walked through storms louder than this. He reached his truck and set the bucket down, pausing as if to breathe for the first time that day. Then he heard his name. "Marcus." He turned. Ethan Caldwell stood several feet away, jacket already soaked, hair plastered to his forehead. No entourage, no assistant, no authority in his posture. Just a man standing in the rain, stripped of everything he usually hid behind. "I followed you," Ethan said unnecessarily. "I didn't want you leaving without hearing this." Marcus studied him in silence. "I was wrong," Ethan said. The words came out raw, almost foreign. "Not just yesterday. For a long time, I judged you by your uniform, by your skin, by what I needed you to be so I could feel important." Marcus didn't interrupt. Ethan continued, voice cracking. "I spent my life believing respect was something people owed me because of what I built. But today you showed me I was demanding something I never earned." The rain filled the space between them. "I'm sorry," Ethan said. "Not as a CEO, not as a public gesture, as a man." Marcus looked at him for a long moment. Then he nodded once. "Apology heard." Ethan exhaled, shoulders sagging with relief. "I want to make this right. A public apology, support for veterans, anything you want." Marcus shook his head gently. "Don't do it for me. Do it for the next man you're about to humiliate. Do it for the ones who don't get a second chance." Ethan's eyes filled. He nodded. "I will." Marcus extended his hand. Ethan froze for half a second, then took it. The handshake was firm, brief, honest. "Take care of your people," Marcus said. "That's real leadership." As Marcus turned toward his truck, Ava stepped out from under the building's awning, holding an umbrella. She'd watched everything. "Thank you," she said softly, "for not becoming what he tried to make you." Marcus smiled faintly. "That's the hardest battle." A week later, Caldwell Tower looked the same from the outside. Glass, steel, prestige. But inside, something had shifted. The lobby felt quieter. People said, "Good morning," more often. Ethan Caldwell no longer walked with the same sharp, dominating stride. He looked people in the eye. He listened. That Friday, the atrium was filled with veterans, families, employees, and cameras. Banners read, "The Reed Foundation, supporting veterans returning home." Ethan stood at the podium, hands steady, voice clear. "This isn't about charity," he said. "It's about accountability. A few days ago, I failed as a leader. I disrespected a man who embodied everything I claim to value." He paused. "His name is Marcus Reed." A murmur rippled through the crowd. "I saw a janitor," Ethan continued. "I should have seen courage, discipline, quiet dignity. He reminded me that greatness doesn't shout, it stands." Applause filled the atrium, not loud, not forced, real. Marcus stepped forward briefly, dressed simply, no medals, no uniform. He didn't take the microphone. He just said, "Treat people like they matter, even when no one's watching." Then he stepped away. Later, as the crowd dispersed, Ava found Marcus near the exit. "You never wanted the spotlight," she said. He smiled. "Spotlights are for people looking up. I've spent my life looking forward." She nodded. "You changed him." Marcus shook his head. "He changed himself. I just held the mirror." As Marcus drove away, Ethan watched from the glass doors. He turned to Ava and said quietly, "He taught me more about leadership in one day than any book ever did." Ava smiled. "Then maybe you finally earned the title." Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, reflecting off the wet pavement. The tower's image wavered, less perfect, more human. Some heroes don't wear uniforms, some carry mops, and some lessons only arrive when arrogance meets quiet strength. Now, before you scroll away, take a moment with me. How did this story make you feel? Did it challenge the way you see power, race, and dignity? Do you believe stories like this can change how we treat one another in real life? If this story moved you, comment 1111 below so I know you felt it too. Tell me which country you're watching from. I want to know how far this message travels. And if you believe respect should never depend on skin color or status, please share this video. Someone out there needs to hear it today.